This is Dr. Cavil. We're inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Just here to give you a little update on this week's HBCU sporting news. As you have known, we usually do every Tuesday, but this is a special week with the SWAC tournament kicking off, the quarterfinals. And it starts this Tuesday with the top 4 seeds getting home games. So just thought we'd bring it to you like that from that perspective. So I wanted to give you a little update in terms of what's going on. So we're doing our special show starting now. With that, again, that's Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab show with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us for Inside our HBCU Lecture Hall, the HBCU Sporting Lab, for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the sporting HBCU diaspora, including the marching sport, with its unique HBCU culture, identity, the teams, the bands, coaches, athletic directors, commissioners, provosts, presidents, big rivalry matchup, classic games, homecoming events, and much, much more of the HBCU athletic aesthetics. As we emerge our lecture with sports business practices in the competitive sports industry, the show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, issues, and ideas from a fan's perspective. We review the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC, of the NCAA Division I, the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association with the CIAA of the NCAA Division II, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC of the NAIA, and independent programs such as Tennessee State of the OVC, Hampton of the Big South, Langston of the Sooner Athletic Conference, along with Texas College as affiliate member in football, as well as Edward Waters as they transition from NAIA to NCAA Division II, and membership in the SIAC. Talking about the SIAC, well, they just had their basketball tournament that ended this weekend, and they have Miles College to continue to be one of the top HBCU programs in the country, particularly what they're doing at the Division II level and then within the SIAC as they dominate. They get it done, regular season, both men and women, but the men get it done in regards to the men's side, cutting down the nets.
Second year in a row.
And Benedict women continue to do what they do on the women's side. They cut down the nets.
Year in, year out. They both get it done.
So let's give you a little update in terms of what's going on there, if you would, from the SIAC perspective. With that, I guess you got to talk about Hampton's men championship game.
They were right there,
but they didn't cut down.
They didn't cut down the nest.
I was really intrigued about that because I figured with their record winning the Big South, they would have got that opening round game, 16 seed. And so there's a chance that they would play a MEAC school, which would have been interesting because, you know, the NCAA loves to
They love the side stories.
Yeah, so I'm sure that would have happened. So we didn't get that little teaser with Hampton facing the winner of the MEAC in some form or fashion. And we'll talk a little bit about that because the MEAC kicks off its tournament this week as they start with their first round, if you would. On Tuesday as well, as we talked about SWAC starting the quarterfinals. Top 8 teams go into SWAC. First top 4 seeds get home games, both on the men's and women's. Teams to get the homes and women's duo this year were 3 institutions, which were Jackson State, men's and women's hosts, Texas Southern, men's and women's hosts, Southern University, men's and women's hosts. So those 3 teams get to do the duo 5:30-7:30 tip-off with various teams. And we'll get into the other particulars in terms of those teams that are hosting at home. So interesting when you look at it that way. You have 2 other teams hosting this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what your thoughts on that. Alcorn on the women's side and Prairie View on the men's side. The number 1 host.
You got some intriguing things going on. I kind of broke down kind of the last snapshot of like the last 4 games going into the tournament. So
all right, well go ahead and run with it.
Are you ready now?
Give us some news of the day.
Oh yeah, let's get some news.
I was letting you get straight up with it.
Hey, you know, I'm
now you gonna try to act like it was me.
I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like,
going to come off gear, off glued as your computer. You don't have your your internet service today. You don't have your plug today.
I'm struggling today.
You can't bring up the music for the opening.
Right.
Looking all haphazard. And he's like, get out of here with all that, man. We got your back, man. We know you went home and got all excited with your frat brothers, your line brothers, and all that stuff. You come back, just, I don't know what they did, man. You act like you took some wood or something this weekend. You look shocked. I thought them days were over. You pledged?
Yeah, no, them days were over.
Let your Mike Booster come in here.
I know.
He come in here quiet this time. He got that off. Give it. That's all right. Mike's in Big Mike. Big Mike.
Corbin 19 calling audibles on
Man, don't be blaming that all on that woodshed, all this stuff. So what you got from them?
Well, let's start off with MEAC. They announced their postseason basketball.
Before you get into postseason, since you're going to jump right into postseason, I have to talk about the MEAC and the leadership team. Where they set up rivalry games the last weekend of the year. I have a schedule format that I am sending to the SWAC office, if you would, to get them to consider it. We'll see if it works. But man, North Carolina Central hosts North Carolina A&T for all the marbles in terms of regular season championship. It was extremely nice to see that. The crowd was into it.
That was beautiful.
DJ, they were rocking the house, and it looked like a championship matchup in game. I mean, they went, and then they had the ability, similar to what we talked about Hampton, that it didn't work out for Hampton. Obviously, it was in a championship game. Yeah, that's it. Just pull it a little bit. Take your time, Mike. Pull it over there. Don't tear it.
Man, I got this.
You grabbed it twice. I said, help him up. Help him out. You know, he's struggling over there. The wires are long. Just take your time. Just get it straight. Cover it all late. As I was saying before these folks get all comfortable in here, man, what's wrong with the Alpha Brothers now?
Hey, they had a nice weekend. How about that?
That's what we're gonna blame it on. Oh man, yeah, I'm about to talk about these.
Which Alpha Brothers are we talking about?
Well, he had a weekend with his line brothers, and he just forgot everything.
Little with the brothers of Delta Phi.
I saw that. Nice little time.
Nice time. Nice time was that ball.
Yeah. I saw Alpha brother over there in Winthrop with his little gear on, looking crazy.
Yeah.
Cheering for Winthrop. But I guess you got to represent your
school. You got to represent your school.
At least he had an A5.
Yeah, you know.
On there. I gotta give him. Teach him a little bit about that HBCU though. We're a little different on this side of the block, baby.
Were you gentle with him? I mean, when you threw that HBCU thing with him?
No, I didn't. This is on TV, so I was just watching. So I didn't have the ability to actually touch on him, if you would, in that manner. Hey, keep it clean. Keep it clean. Ron Hayes and organization. We'll get back to this matchup, if you would, in regards to what was taking place with A&T and North Carolina Central. And the drama was out there because Central went down as much as 15 points.
Yes.
First half. And they had a rush where they were just getting turnovers, getting rebounds, getting quick buckets. They got a dunk to bring them in with one. A chance at the end of the season at home, and it was perfect. Mike, scoot over a little bit to make sure you're going to be in the mic. I don't want you to blame me when your voice is not heard.
I'm gonna blame you anyway.
See what I'm saying?
Blame me for everything anyway.
Oh boy.
Yeah, now he talking about Hayes and me. See,
so just like the old days.
I just don't get it.
That's right.
Thought those days are over. So North Carolina Central wins 86-80, and they close out their regular season on Thursday because they start the tournament on Tuesday. So won't the couple of days. If you know the SWAC does a Thursday Saturday matchup, so things went down to the wire in the SWAC. Southern has made a huge run in terms of some big victories, including an overtime win against Prairie View to close out the regular season, and leapfrog over Texas Southern after their win over Texas Southern on Thursday to take up the second seed. So those are some interesting things.
That becomes dangerous later on. We'll get into it, but
why you said that, because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But we'll see what that means.
I agree with him. That's dangerous at this time of the year. So
yeah. In terms of losing, I can see what you're saying there. But I'm saying in terms of seed, 2 and 3 seeds, you stay away from the 1 seed, and you're going to have to play the 2 or the 3 regardless if you're able to get to the semifinals. So,
but now
it's not much there.
It's who Texas Southern faces now.
Oh, in that first round, the quarterfinal. Yeah, well, a very good point there. Bethune-Cookman wins in overtime at home over FAMU to close out the regular season and edges them off in terms of where they finish in the regular season. Obviously, FAMU was not eligible for the tournament. Alabama A&M, which travels to Prairie View, was. We talked about them not being eligible, but they were able to receive a waivers, so that's why they're in the tournament. Coppin State over Maryland Eastern Shore, 63-60. So you see the reframe of a lot of these games in terms of rivalry weeks that went to the wire. So I think that's some things that you want to do to help put your conference in the forefront in terms of opportunities to get those television moments that go a long way in terms of your fan base, as well as a little initiative in terms of recruiting as well. Delaware State edges out Howard, put Howard's season out of misery in a lot of ways. Howard went 3-28, defeated them 100-88. So that was interesting just to talk about some of those scores that are going on there. Little other thing that we talked about is Thursday, you had Alabama A&M, mild upset in some people's eyes with them defeating Grambling, 58-57, classic game matchup there. A&M's playing a little better. They did everything that you want against Jackson State.
Was that Alabama A&M playing better, or Grambling saying we have nothing to gain by this?
I think Grambling was still trying to fight for seeding because they went down and they had the tiebreaker. So
I kind of wondered that.
This last weekend, I don't think that anybody really took their foot off the gas, because other than Prairie View clinching on Monday, everybody else was fighting for seeding. Like we said, Texas Southern and Southern 2 and 3. We saw how that flipped. You had the chance between Grambling, Alcorn, and Jackson State in regards to that seeding, and it came down to a tiebreak in terms of head-to-head matchups. So everybody went in that weekend trying to improve their seeding, and it was to the point if Grambling won their last 2 games, they would have had a 4th seed, and they would have been hosting this weekend instead of being on the road. So I can't see with them going in that game saying, hey,
even despite their head-to-heads, they still would.
No, if they would have won the 2, they would have had a lead over Jackson State. Because remember, they finished tied with Jackson State, so they get this win. They have a win up on Jackson State and Alcorn. With the loss, it gave Jackson State the opportunity in Alcorn to get in that three-way tie, which they did. Which in this issue pushed Grambling State all the way down to the 6th seed.
But I wonder, Grambling State's in the mix, and then Alabama A&M has been like number 7, 8, the bottom of the conference, and all of a sudden, here comes Alabama A&M and pulls out a win.
Yeah,
that's just suspicious to me. I'm sorry.
I think they just played better, and they play, and you get that at home in the road. And I think this has been one of those road game things. So. This year in the SWAC, you had tough road games throughout the SWAC. That made teams difficult. Now, the top teams were able to pull out those games more than not. But as we say, going in the tournament, I would argue that 5 or 6 teams could win it. I certainly think 6, 7 teams can get you an upset here and there that really throws things out of whack in the quarterfinals or semifinals. You might say there's the top 3 teams that can win 3 in a row. But I think any of these teams can win the tournament. You have the Alcorn State getting a big victory over Prairie View, 80-71. You could have talked about that being a short week, maybe. Now that's a game that you could maybe say Prairie View was filling themselves after getting the championship. But I'm sure that they wanted to get that win early, and they fought back in that matchup. But Alcorn State, the Braves, got it done and just were able to hold them off.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they didn't want to go in the next week because they didn't know what Southern and Texas Southern was doing. And if Southern wins, Texas Southern wins that game, then all of a sudden Prairie View is talking about Texas Southern head-to-head matchup. Now, the number 1 seed was locked up because they had the win-loss ranking against Texas Southern. But Texas Southern had a chance if they win against Southern the last 2 games to get a share of the championship. So I think everybody was serious about that last weekend. Jackson State gets a big win over Alabama State. We see what that was able to do when they get that close win, come from behind win, second win, if you would, against Alabama A&M, which vaults them all the way from a 6th seed all the way up to a 4th seed, meaning they have a home game. So I think it was huge. Southern, Toronto's Texas Southern 89-74. Now people are talking about that people are concerned the guard for Texas Southern University, he didn't play in the game.
Right.
Mild hamstring.
Yeah.
Didn't play against Alcorn, holding them out. And so that's something to keep your eyes on.
You better keep your eye on that. That's because as the Magic Man goes, I think that's how Texas Southern they roll. I mean, not having him in the lineup is a huge disadvantage for Texas Southern. He makes so much go in terms of 14 points a game that he averages for Texas Southern. He can score, but he sets up everybody else. And quite frankly, the bench play, especially with the guards, has not been up to par for Texas Southern. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that going forward.
Yeah, we talk about Tyreek making moves, getting it done in a lot of ways. So to me, that's fascinating when you look at just what Tyreek Armstrong is going to be able to do starting tomorrow, and how long will he be able to go in the tournament, because he is the third straw
straw that stirs it.
The drink for Texas Southern University. We saw what he did last year in terms of really turning on the second learner, earning that scholarship in a lot of ways during the postseason tournament where they dropped a Final Four banner for the CIT.
Even if he's able to perform at the beginning, longevity through the tournament is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, what does that mean in terms of playing the sprint? I call the tournament a sprint. Right. You're playing 3 games over 3 or 4 or 5 days. Yeah. 2 straight days, and we saw that in a lot of ways with Hampton. I think that was part of what drove Hampton. They showed why they were 5th seed, not having the depth in that championship game. They were able to get off very quickly in that matchup, but couldn't really hold on to it.
Are you going to have the legs toward the end? That's huge.
That's huge. And we see Southern playing really well as they get a victory over Prairie View in overtime, 89-80. As Prairie View hits a big shot to send it to overtime, but can't close out the deal. So this is a team that's won, 7 straight?
7 straight.
Playing really good basketball in a lot of ways on the men's side.
Scary team.
Alcorn State defeats Texas Southern 90-75. And Grambling over Alabama State 70-58. And you see an Alabama State team that can play some teams tough, but they go in these little droughts. And I'm not just saying over the season, but they'll do that in a game.
Right.
So you don't quite know what you're going to get from them. And so that's interesting. As we said, Jackson State defeats Alabama A&M 54-51. Sophomore Gervais McGinnis totaled 13 points, 12 rebounds for his 10th double-double of the season, getting it done for Jackson State as they rallied to get Alabama A&M. And it looked like all was lost, and they just chiseled away. I watched that game, and they got it done. Big 3, Caleb Hunter. I know they're at the bottom and outside of the top 8, so we kind of forget about them. Rivalry matchup in this matchup, but Valley closes out the season on a big win with the 3 in the game by Lindsey Hunter's son, Caleb Hunter, who had 30 points and hit the game-winning 3-pointer in that game.
Never met a shot he didn't like. Caleb's a gunner.
He hit this one.
Yeah, he did. Exactly.
We talking about Valley?
Yeah, we talking about Valley. Caleb Hunter, he leads the conference in shooting.
Oh, my goodness. So what are your thoughts on SWAC this last weekend, or North Carolina, or the MEAC in regards to those teams shaping up? Don't forget about Norfolk State. They're at home for the tournament. Yes, they are a 3rd seed. And they closed out the season not with a lot of people, with all the focus being on North Carolina, rightfully so, with a championship game between A&T, but they were just 1 game back. They did lose both to North Carolina A&T and Central. They only played one game against them. Both games were on the road now. So now they're going to be in the confines of their own city, not on their own court, but in their home city. They're going to have the crowd there. What do you say about Norfolk State? I get a chance to see them live. I'll be in there Thursday before I head down to Birmingham to see the SWAC tournament. So I'm interested in see what this MEAC tournament's all about. Friday night is where the lights hit up, but I'm hearing that they do really well on Thursday as well. So I get a chance to see the two men's games in terms of the quarterfinals, the second two games of the quarterfinals. The first two quarterfinals they played on Wednesday with North Carolina A&T hosting the team in the opening round, as well as North Carolina Central. So they get a day off before they come back on Friday.
That could be huge.
Significant.
Right.
But I want to get a chance to see them up front. So I thought that was interesting. So I want to get your thoughts on the SWAC and MEAC tournament before we go back and celebrate what the teams did in the SIAC. We talked about Miles and getting it done in Benedict on the women's side. But I also want to give some love to Gold Coast Athletic Conference.
Xavier.
Getting it done in a lot of ways, including the women's program. So talk to me. What do you think?
Well, that was an exciting matchup, watching North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T. Like you said, if you're a fan of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, you can figure out how to get those rivalry games toward the back end or the last game of the regular season, a la North Carolina Duke. That would be huge, I think, for the conference moving forward. North Carolina Central, we've kind of watched them chug along during the course of the season, and they're right there at the end, MEAC regular season champion. So nice win over A&T. Take a look at the SWAC. That was really intriguing over the weekend. Watching Texas Southern and Prairie View both struggle against Southern. And I think Southern, being one of the hottest teams going into the tournament, is a very, very dangerous team. They are the top defensive team going into this conference tournament. And now we're seeing that they're getting scoring from all over. In terms of balanced scoring, so they're hot going forward. They've over the last 4 games, 4-0 down the stretch, 64-37 over A&M, the win over Alcorn, win over Texas Southern, and then closed out over Prairie View. Jackson State, they've gone 4-0 down the stretch. They're an enigmatic team in that they will win 4 in a row.
Say that again.
Little 50-cent word.
4-0 going down the stretch.
I told you what the Jackson.
Little 50-cent word.
But they can lose 3 in a row as well. So I just don't know what I'm going to see with this Jackson State team. Of course, you're talking about a team that's getting a lot of national run right now with a young man, Thomas Snacks Lee. And I had to tell him, Doc, you ain't going to talk to Today Show, ESPN, and everybody else and not talk to us. So that's lined up once we get to the tournament. So yes, indeed. You got to get it done. But
Mike, before
4-0 going down the stretch, and I think the thing about Jackson State, in terms of when you've seen them with their winning streaks, they have eaten well off the bottom half of the league. So I think that's something to watch going forward.
Not that they bottom feeders.
They have catfished the bottom of the league. A&M, Alabama State, Valley, and then also we got a 3-4 game win streak. So
wow. Diane Weber, shout out. Franklin Nelson giving us some love today. Jimmy Wilson says it's the Furious 2 in the studio today. Make it 3. Mike has joined us. Michael Lee say, "What's up, guys? All hail to the king." He must have watched the big victor by the Lakers. Y'all give it.
Yeah, the king went off.
He went off this weekend.
Sonya Stems, hey y'all, is today Tuesday? See y'all Friday? No, it's not Tuesday, but we getting in here a little early because we gonna be out there watching the games live tomorrow, so we make sure y'all get good information next week when we get in the studio. Like I said, I'll be up in Norfolk on Thursday to check out at least a day of action for the MEAC tournament. Basically, you're talking about quarterfinal action for the men's and women's, and then I'll fly in Friday to see the semifinals for the SWAC and then the championship game as well. So we'll give you updates of what's going on there. Brandon Bailey gives us the Big Fist 100. Big time DJ there, Meade Bernard Coleman Jr. Hey gang, late start. Hope you haven't talked about Fayetteville State women yet. No, we're gonna make sure Fayetteville State gets the win.
Get some love,
because we're gonna have to talk about the playoff seeding as those things are coming out. Diane Weber said, "Good evening, friends." Yes, indeed. My wife is the head coach at Fayetteville State, by the way. Make sure, Mr. Coleman Jr. I should have known. A lot of love, man. Appreciate you sharing that. We'll make sure we do right by the head coach at Fayetteville State, Bernard Coleman, me Jr. That is, as they should get as much love as well as they're doing. Let us know when we can get Coach Coleman on the air.
No doubt about it.
We'll let her get through the playoffs and we'll give her some love. Certainly deserve that. We'd love to have her on the air, so shoot me a
absolutely
message, if you would, Facebook, and we'll see if we can hook that up for next week or so. Lawrence P. White, Gold PV Pantherettes and Panthers. He got that old time name with the Pantherettes. I ain't heard that in a while. You know, he old school fan, man. Isaiah Thornton is on here checking us up and making sure that the
across the
sound. Yeah, but he's just making sure that the sound is right, man. He got a studio excellent. He makes sure that's how we told you make sure you speak in the mic.
Oh, thank you. I don't need a mic. I'm my own mic.
There we go.
Call me Big Mike.
Colbert said, when you're ready, Roosevelt is now watching. What's going on, Roosevelt? Tell us what you think about the Panthers. What the chances in the tournament?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes.
Lost the last two. Can they bounce back? Yes.
Yes.
It's one of those things, like you said. It's the difference in terms of time and all the time. You saying bottom feeders of the conference who's win 4 straight.
Yeah.
But you play the top teams in the conference in a lot of ways. On the road, especially after you clinch the championship, you're taking overtime, so it's not like you're not playing well.
Right.
Because we just said Southern is playing well. When you take them to overtime at home,
right,
you're not playing bad yourself.
Not at all.
Give them credit for getting a win, but it doesn't mean that Prairie View is not playing well because they lost 2.
Right.
They just had a great matchup.
Right.
So, in terms of these games, Mike, show up.
All right,
Mike, tell me what you think.
Well, you started with the MEAC, Norfolk State. I realize this thing about home field advantage, home court advantage. It's in the Norfolk area, but who's won the last 3 tournaments?
North Carolina Central.
The Eagles, right?
Yeah. Right. Last year was Norfolk.
They won the last 3, right? Mm-hmm. Who finished first this year in the MEAC?
North Carolina Central.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to ask the question: who's tops in offense in the MEAC? The Eagles, right? All right. So all of this.
I think we started to get your point. This is good. I like this. This is pretty good.
All right. So
next one. May I get North Carolina?
So I get it. It switches places. Some teams have home, but you can't deny the champion. They repeat it until you knock them off. They're the favorite. I don't care how well Norfolk State is playing. They finished 3rd, by the way, in the standings. So.
Right. I mean, yeah, A&T was right behind.
But in terms of finishing it strong, if you look at some of the other teams that we're saying finished strong in the SWAC that are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, not as strong. So, no, I give it to the North Carolina Central Eagles. As far as the SWAC, Southern is very scary. They're dangerous. With the winning streak that they finished the season on, they're very dangerous. They actually finished tops in the SWAC by the end of the year in defense, and defense carries. That shakes heads, that raises eyebrows, that plucks your nails. That's a very uncomfortable feeling, I know, but that makes Southern a very scary team. I wouldn't put out Southern actually coming across with a few more upsets and coming across, but I still got to give the edge to the Prairie View Panthers.
I'm going to tell you an intriguing matchup tomorrow night.
What's that?
Number 4 versus number 5, Jackson State versus Alcorn. Yeah, that one is intriguing.
Why is that intriguing to you?
Because Alcorn can shoot the lights out. They're one of the top offenses in the SWAC. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are the top offense in the SWAC.
Yes.
And then you have Jackson State, who has beaten them twice.
Yes.
Right.
But this is going to have that old-fashioned David Whitney, Paul Covington sort of mix tomorrow night. Jackson State fans, let's see what you're going to do tomorrow night. Are you going to show up?
That sounds like a challenge. Personal challenge that's gone out to the Jackson State
I'm
Nation.
just saying, Alcorn is a tough team. I think the Alcorn Braves fans of Jackson, they're going to show up. So that is a challenge to the Jackson State fans to show up and show out for that Jackson State team tomorrow night.
Yes,
you know who North Carolina still beat in the tournament last year was Norfolk in the championship game.
Correct.
Okay.
Who ended up with the championship though? The Eagles.
Nope, Central. And they beat Norfolk 2 out of the last 3 years, 17 and 19.
Exactly.
What about A&T? Y'all not giving A&T a chance, the Aggies?
Not in basketball, not this time.
Not this year. Not sorry. No can do.
It's on to the Big South, huh? Just kick them to the Big South.
I'm just saying, North Carolina Central running the MEAC in basketball.
Right.
Michael Jones has jumped in here watching this. Diane says, but Jackson State got snacks.
They got snacks. They got more snacks. I don't know if you're going to get out on the court one more time.
Michael Jones say snacks can't play.
Wow. Man, you know what? There's a lot of hate going towards snacks. Man,
What's wrong with snacks? I like snacks.
Man, I was
like that.
I was just so big around snacks.
That was even on the Ricky Smiley show. They brought snacks.
Exactly.
I'm like you, Mike. I like the idea of snacks. Snacks got it done in a lot of ways. I don't understand why everybody's just continue to
snacks representing.
He was 1 for 4.
Okay, minor detail. Okay, minor detail. Snacks got it.
Jackson State did he get the Dallas Cowboys on swag, so I understand it a little bit.
Did he get the winning shot though?
Yes.
Okay.
Shooting percentages.
Final details. 25%. What out the window? He got the winning shot.
Diane said, "I know MJ." I'm just saying. Wow, y'all.
Shout out to Thomas Lee.
This hurts.
Oh my.
Yes,
so,
hey Diane, how you doing?
Tougaloo ranked 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Xavier ranked 15.
Yeah.
Talladega ranked 25 in the NAIA top 25 poll ranking. Xavier cuts down the nets on the men's side.
Great job.
What are your thoughts in terms of the tournament and Xavier getting it done first time in a while?
Yeah.
How long has it been for Xavier?
96.
1996. Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations
to all those Gold Rush alumni out there. That's a lot of them. Yeah.
And that tournament was held in New Orleans. What are your thoughts in terms of Xavier cutting it down, getting it done?
Well, that's a tough Tougaloo team that they beat. Coach Thomas Bullets.
Yeah.
And
we just said,
his assistant coach Eric Struthers is on the bench over there with him as well. You remember Eric Struthers being up there in Mississippi Valley and Jackson State as well. But that's a tough Tougaloo team. They can score the ball. And congratulations to Xavier, because anytime we've had Coach Billups on the show, anytime you beat a Tougaloo, Coach Billups Tougaloo team, you've accomplished something.
That was a 1 versus 2 matchup.
Yep.
Xavier won the regular season. They got a chance to get it done. Like you said, Tougaloo was ranked slightly higher in the poll rankings in terms of what they did in non-conference play. So you're talking about a matchup. What I heard was also interesting in the semifinals with men was Xavier taking on their in-city rival Dillard, ranked 5. Classic matchup. One of the newspaper writers in that area said that was the second best game he's seen covering a team 20-some plus years.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So to let you just know how exciting that matchup was. Xavier got it done and didn't get the letdown as they had again played the number 2 team. On the women's side, make sure we give Chivalry's Not Dead, give some love there. Talladega gets it done against Philander Smith, getting their championships. And you're talking about those teams over there in that area. I thought that was pretty nice to get done in a lot of ways. Talladega Lady Tornadoes are ranked 10th in the nation. Rush Lady, the Bearcats are ranked 23 in the NAIA top 25, and Philander Smith Lady Panthers that made it to the championship game are receiving votes just outside of the top 25. They're giving some love in terms of what's going on in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference.
Shout out to the Lady Bearcats of Rush.
Lady Bearcats.
A lot of good stuff going on there. So back to it in terms of what your thoughts are as they're going off here. Michael Jones says, yes, she plays great defense. For the Braves. He'll say he'll see what's happened.
That's a good game. Yeah.
Derek Allen White says it's a good matchup. I think the Texas Southern Grambling game as well.
Ivy Smith.
In terms of what's going on. This is a Grambling team that was picked third. A lot of people thought they had a chance to do some damage in the regular season in terms of where they would finish. Kind of had up and down, but this is a talented team. Great on the guard play in a lot of ways. Have some height, athletic, but sometimes it doesn't seem like they can finish. Can they put it together against a Texas Southern team that may be wounded a little bit?
Well, yeah, I think it's very concerning in terms of Tyreek Armstrong, in terms of his stamina, his ability to go. Of course, didn't play the last 2 games of the regular season, but as he goes, so goes Texas Southern. I think Eden Ewing has tried to take up the slack as far as the scoring. Yahuza's Rosas, he's a double-double machine, but as Tyreek Armstrong goes, so goes Texas Southern. And without his scoring and without his playmaking, it makes them a little bit more pedestrian on the offensive side of the ball. And Texas Southern is not a very good defensive team. They are one of the bottom teams in the SWAC in terms of defending, in terms of defense. So that's a game that I think is concerns me a little bit if you're a Texas Southern fan.
Yeah, they got one big rebounder, Yahuza Rosas.
Yahuza's Rosas, yes.
Yes, so and they have no one else really helping them on the board. So if you don't have anyone else kind of pushing the ball, I think they are kind of wounded. So
I think you make good points when you look at what's going on there inside on the men's side. Let's look a little bit in terms of what took place this past week in the SWAC, as well as the MEAC on the women's side. See Bethune-Cookman getting it done.
15-1.
Yep.
Got a big win over their rival FAMU.
Yeah.
And they just rolled through the regular season, won the championship as you talked about last year. Is anybody going to get a chance to do it again? Bethune-Cookman, what do you think their chances are in terms of the MEAC tournament on the women's side?
Bethune-Cookman 15-1 in conference play. Their lone loss in conference play was to Norfolk State. Shanette Hicks, she is the player of the year in the MEAC, also the defensive player of the year. Check these stats out.
Yep.
First player in the MEAC history to win both the player of the year honor and defensive player of the year honor. Second in the nation in steals. She's almost averaging 5 steals a game, 4.8 steals a game, 13th in scoring, 20.1 points per game. So I think if there's a team that could actually knock off Bethune-Cookman, it would be Norfolk State, but Bethune-Cookman just has it rolling right now. They haven't lost since early January to that Norfolk State team. So.
Yeah, they're playing some really good basketball. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, same thing. Scoring offense. You look at it. I don't see anybody messing with Bethune-Cookman. Also, you look at turnovers. Team, and I'm talking about the team. Charles talked about the individual. I'm talking about the team statistics. So. If you look at the team statistics, I don't see anyone else really that could really statistically match up. Now, you could get into a heated game rivalry, but I mean they're so dominant this year. I don't see anyone really messing with them in the tournament.
Yeah, and the Roberts FAMU, and they're just not playing good basketball right now. Record-wise, as you said, statistics, no one's close. Record-wise, the next closest team. Norfolk State 12-4 as you mentioned, but you also have Morgan State. The Lady Bears sit at 12-4, 16-13 overall.
Shout out to Morgan State. I mean, they were picked to finish like 7th in the conference, and they were right there. Up toward the upper echelon in the conference. They got wins over Norfolk State and wins over North Carolina A&T.
I was just going to say, when you talk about that, and you mentioned North Carolina A&T, they finished 11-5. So those are your 4 teams that get the buys. They let you know that they got it done top part of the conference. And as you talk about Norfolk State being the lone team that beat Bethune-Cookman, but Morgan State and North Carolina A&T get it against Norfolk State. Is there any way that Morgan State or North Carolina A&T has a chance against Bethune-Cookman? More than a puncher's chance, would you say? I
just think Amaya Scott is too difficult. She is one of the best players in the MEAC. Bethune-Cookman really has it rolling when they dump the ball in her. 6'1", she goes up, gets rebounds, scores. Really a do-it-all player for Bethune-Cookman. It's going to be tough to knock them off in the tournament.
I would give them a puncher's chance because A&T led the MEAC, the women's did, in defense and allowed defensive points. So if their defense is churning and on a good night when the moon's shining and the rays and the stars are aligned, I think they have a puncher's chance, but other than that, I think it's
Batman.
I think it's
When
Bethune-Cookman.
the moon is shining and the stars in alignment.
I'd say,
He said late doing the press song.
Under the cherry moon and everything.
if you're reaching North Carolina A&T, if they play their defense,
Back there on the hill. They got himself in trouble back in the day.
hey, it's blame it on Corbin.
Hey, statute of limitations is passed, so we're good to go.
We talk about that Morgan State, Norfolk State. That was the rivalry game they played that Thursday as they close out the season. Morgan State beats up on Norfolk State, 73-55. Really beat them down. Howard women defeat Delaware State in that last game, 76-61. Maryland Eastern Shore gets it done against Coppin State, 61-46. But then you have that rivalry mix-up that we said. FAMU brings it against Bethune-Cookman, but can't close the door. Bethune-Cookman closes it out the right way, wins 66-64. Was a close matchup. Is that a tell of the tape, or was it just one of those things? North Carolina Central, 65 over North Carolina A&T, rivalry game. Gets it done as Central does the double-double in a lot of ways in that matchup. They defeat A&T 65-52. So you see some cases where the bottom half of the conference finds a way to get it done against the top half of the conference in MEAC. But you told us it's Bethune-Cookman to lose on the women's side. So we'll go with that. Let's jump over here on the women's side for the SWAC, giving you these updates on the Thursday game. Southern wins a tight win against Texas Southern, 59-56. Big win by Southern at home, getting it done. Alcorn State beats up on Prairie View after that injury, where Prairie View gets a big win over Alabama A&M team that really played Texas Southern tough that Saturday, and then you get the injury on Monday. And it looks like Prairie View hasn't quite recovered because they get beat down by Alcorn and then again at Southern. So mostly, I don't think this team is there.
Right.
They've pushed and I think in a lot of ways got more out of what the talent they had, especially with the depth playing young team. It was hurtful to see that happen, but I think this team is really emotionally spent. So it'll be interesting to see as they go on the road tomorrow, can they bring anything and get it done? Then you have Alabama State losing to Jackson State, 76-56. The women of Jackson State continue to roll and get it done. Can anybody defeat Jackson State? They rolled through the season, got it done regular season. Is there a team? We didn't get to see the second matchup. We saw the first classic game between Texas Southern and Jackson.
Yeah, what about
where
Texas
it goes
Southern?
to overtime. The thing that scares me a little bit about Texas Southern is their lack of big people to have. They've had some injuries of late.
I think that's huge.
It's not quite the same team that was running all, and I think Cooper is doing a great job to keep this team fighting and getting some victory.
Yeah, but they're like 8-9 in their last few games, so they found a way to do it.
They do win.
They win it.
Let's not get it.
So
and they are the number 2 seed.
I don't want us to count them out. They're the number 2 seed. They finished second in the SWAC conference, so I don't want us to count them out. I do give Jackson State the edge.
They've gone 3-1 over their last 4 games, so they're playing decent basketball. But I'm with you a little bit in terms of being a little bit concerned about Texas Southern and their lack of height down low. I think some of the injuries that they've had, I think, have been pivotal. I think their bench is not as deep as I would like for it to be. So that's going to play in when you're playing 2 games in 2 nights or whatever the case might be.
Rebounding.
Trying to get some rebounds, trying to have some legs. And I think Jackson State really does have the depth this year that I think they can get it done. But if there's a team that matches up really well with Jackson State, it's 2 teams that I think actually match up very well with Jackson State. One is Texas Southern, and the other one is Alabama A&M.
Alabama A&M. I was gonna let you
stick in there and get there because I was going to ask you because Alabama A&M beats up on Grambling, basically puts Grambling out of misery. They don't even make the tournament. 72-52, pretty much sealing the deal on that. And this is a team that's been in the championship game the last couple of years, and now they can't even get in the tournament. It lets you know just how talented Miss Hill was in terms of do everything. But tell us a little bit about this Alabama A&M Bulldog teams. Like you said, they took a tough loss in the series, road trip to Texas, played both of those games close. but couldn't pull out a victory. They come back home and they get it done against Grambling, then against Jackson. They couldn't get it done. I mean, pull off the victory, upset against Jackson State. Obviously, Jackson State had clinched everything by the end. But this is a team that's playing talented. What do you think about the Alabama A&M Bulldogs on the women's side, the Lady Bulldogs? Do they have that puncher chance? Can they get it done against this talented Jackson State team?
Alabama A&M goes 2-2 down the stretch. Tough Texas two-step in terms of playing Texas Southern, playing Prairie View, both losses. But the loss against Texas Southern, I was really impressed. They only lost 79-76, but it was their play down low, their post play, being able to get some easy buckets, and those are the things that I kind of look for in tournament play, especially on the women's side of the ball, that you can dump it down low and somebody can turn around and get easy buckets. So really, you look at the men's side, you look at the guard play, but looking at the women's side, I look a little bit more towards who can get easy buckets, who can get to the free throw line, things of that nature. And Alabama A&M, interestingly enough, was able to do that against Texas Southern, and then watching them against Jackson State. They were down early, but they fought back, and they really played Jackson State really tough. Now, you easily say Jackson State didn't really have anything to play for, but they played that game tough. And it was a very good game, and kudos to Alabama A&M for getting that done.
Yeah, and as you say, Jackson State didn't have anything to play for, but we just talked to the coach. You can tell she likes to win.
Yeah, Tamika really likes to win.
Exactly. And plus, in the coach's mindset, she's like, this is the team we can
exactly.
We don't really want to give them any hope.
Nothing.
And so I think that's a difference in that. Before I let Mike chime in on Alabama A&M, give those Saturday scores. Yeah, Arkansas Pine Bluff closing out the season, defeating Mississippi Valley State 81-59, putting Valley out of their misery in a lot of ways. Alabama A&M defeats Jackson State 75-71. And this Arkansas Pine Bluff that won that game over Valley plays Texas Southern in that open round game that we talk about with the matchups on the women. Alabama A&M, as we said, gets the big win over Jackson State 75-71. Southern gets it done against Prairie View 63-51. Texas Southern defeats Alcorn State 81-67. And Grambling closed out the season. Not for naught. They did get that last victory over Alabama State 69-68. Credit to Grambling State in a lot of ways that they're still playing hard, still playing basketball. Could have given up. They were outside looking in the tournament, but they fought, got the victory. I thought credit to them. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this Alabama A&M Bulldog team in terms of the tournament?
So I think they can play well. I think they have a strong puncher's chance. Dariana Lewis.
Yep.
You have Jamaica Cobb. Those are the strong foundations of it. And they rebound, they play defensive well. The problem is they're not leading the league in scoring. So if they play a good offensive team and they're on their Pistons, they're on their team, they're on their, I guess, their laurels, and they're playing the game that they know they can play. So let's say a Jackson State, let's say a Texas Southern. It'll be close, but I give the edge to those two teams for that reason, because you don't have the scorers, in my opinion, for Alabama A&M. You have the rebounding, you have the defensive boards, but the scoring, to me, if you pound for pound, apples to apples comparison, is a little bit less.
I give it to you. Great point. With that, before we give the polls, let me give you an update here in terms of NCAA Division II women. This is a shout out in a lot of ways, as we told Bernard Coleman Jr. that we're going to give Fayetteville State some love. They were the champions of the CIAA. You had 23 conferences, including the CIAA and SIAC, that have been awarded automatic qualifications to the remaining 41 teams. The Division II tournament on the women's side selected at-large teams. So you have CIAA champion Fayetteville State, Lady Broncos, and SIAC Titleist Benedict. Tigers received automatic. Bowie State and Virginia Union got at-large bids. 78 teams. Regionals will be played on campus sites. That's March 13th, 14th, and 16th. The Atlantic region will have 2 4-team sites as a result of the split regional with the men's basketball. As you're getting into it, so Fayetteville State, seeded number 8 in the Atlantic region, is scheduled to face top-seeded Indiana University of Pennsylvania Friday, IUP. Yep. That is March the 13th at noon. And number 4, Bowie State versus number 5, Virginia Union. So you have another CIAA matchup. Will follow at 2:30 on the same court. Obviously, the winner of that game will face the winner of Fayetteville State and Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Benedict, seeded 6 in the South region, will travel to Florida to face number 3 Tampa. Also on Friday at noon Friday, the winners of each 8 regions will have advanced to the 2020 NCAA Division II Women's Elite 8 will be held at the Birmingham Crossplex in Birmingham, Alabama. That's March 24th, 25th, and 27th. Miles College in the city of Birmingham will serve as hosts, giving you some updates on what takes place there on the women's NCAA Division II tournament. Any thoughts on that tournament in regards to the women's side Division II?
Give me Bowie State and Virginia Union one more time. That's going to be a fun one. Number 4 versus number 5 seed Bowie State 25-5, Virginia Union 23-4. They meet in the first round. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah,
Mike, your thoughts?
I kind of echo his announcements. I give me that one more time. Let's replay it. Let's rewind, press play on that one. So
On the men's side, CIAA champions Winston-Salem State and SIAC titleist Miles receive automatic bids, while Virginia State got at-large bids. In terms of what they did in non-conference play, they certainly put themselves in a position to get that automatic bid, and they earn it. Tells you a little about strength of schedule. And CIAA is not just getting it done in football. Looks like they're back in that basketball business with multiple bids.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
6 of the regional tournaments consisting of 8 teams. These games will be conducted March 15, 14, 15, and 17 at the 6 regional sites as we talked about. With that said, Winston-Salem State, seeded number 8 in the Atlantic region, is scheduled to face top-seeded Indiana, University of Pennsylvania. So IUP is getting it done both on the men's.
I know, right?
Friday.
Football and basketball.
Yeah. Number 7, Virginia State will travel to West Virginia to face West Liberty. Also on Friday, giving you some updates there. Miles, seeded number 8 in the South region, will travel to Florida to place number 1 Florida Southern Saturday, March 14th. So they get it off on the right foot. Those games, in terms of the final, the Elite 8, as they do it in the Division II, I should say, is at the Ford Center in Evansville, Indiana, March 26th and 28th. The championship game will be held at the State Farm Arena on Sunday in Atlanta, Georgia, in conjunction with the Division I Men's Final Four. So that'll be interesting in terms of that partnership to see what goes on there. Any thoughts about the men's side?
Tough draws. Anytime you're going 2 versus 7 and
8
versus 1 is a very tough draw. So
that's not good. So that's not a good.
Well, let me give you the top 5, if you would, in terms of the my major division basketball programs. Let's start with the women's team. Obviously, I did say this: Tennessee State won in OVC. They won their first round game, but lost in the semifinals in OVC. In terms of that continued up and down play that they really did all year long.
Right.
Being able to put one good game together, but not quite the same. They did lose to the Belmont team that ended up winning the tournament, so it wasn't that they were playing a sloppy team.
Right.
But not to get it done. In terms of the top 5, in terms of Dr. Cavill's 2020 HBCU Major Division Women's Basketball Poll Rankings, week number 10. Dropping out of the polls this week, Hampton Lady Pirates 18-11, 14-6. They went 1-1 this past weekend, while the men of the Big South played the tournament, and we talked about Hampton losing the championship game. The women of the Big South don't play their tournament until this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get a chance maybe to see what
Hampton Lady Pirates
are able to get. So they are receiving votes along with North Carolina A&T State Aggies. They receive 18 votes. Southern Jaguars 15-14, 13-5. Number 10 receiving votes, as well as Hampton Lady Pirates 18-11, 14-6, 11 points respectively. When you talk about 18, 11, and 10 between those teams, letting you know just how tough the top 5 programs is. When you talk about this other team that's playing well, can't get in the top 5. So who are those top 5? Let me see your thoughts on this. Texas Southern Tigers, this is on the women's side, 19-10, 14-4, ranked 4. They do drop a spot.
Yep.
And number 4, Morgan State Bears, 16-13, 12-4. They jump in the top 5. We talked a little bit about Morgan State Bears. Big win over Norfolk State puts them in the top 5. Although number 3, Norfolk State Spartanettes, 18-11, 12-4, tied with them in conference rate, still remains at number 3 with 74 points. And number 2, Jackson State Lady Tigers, 18-10, 16-2, 2 first place votes. They lose the first place vote because of their loss against Alabama A&M, but they still stay in the number 2 spot. Getting it done, Bethune-Cookman Lady Wildcats, 23-5, the only Division I team with 20-plus wins, and they creep up all the way to 25 playing really well non-conference play, carrying it over in the conference play, closing out the season. Just one conference loss. We did say to Norfolk State, a top 5 program. So it wasn't much of a letdown, but the fact they playing really good basketball, 8 first place votes. They add a first place vote, 111 points, and they reign number 1. What are your thoughts in terms of top 5 for the women's side?
I like the top 5. I think Bethune-Cookman 23-5, 15-1. They are definitely the top team in women's basketball. But Jackson State, this will be a good test for them coming into this tournament. I think they've done everything they needed to do this past season. They could have the SWAC Women's Player of the Year in Amisha Williams, and she could also be the Defensive Player of the Year. She leads the league in blocks and is up there in as well. So Amisha Williams has been, they've really gotten on her back, if you will, and they've really rode her to this regular season championship.
Any point. Mike, what are your thoughts on the top 5? Any concern?
In concept, no, it's okay. It's a great attempt.
Shot me right back down.
No, and honestly, DC, no issues. Morgan State and Texas Southern, in my opinion, you could have flip flopped.
Okay.
Because you got the number 1, the number 1, the number 2, number 2. What has Morgan State done to be the number 2 solid in the SWAC?
Yeah.
So that's where, and the team that's played consistently, offensively and defensively throughout the season. So they do have some issues. I agree it.
I will say that in terms of overall concept, and that's what you look at in terms of poll overall.
Yeah.
But also remember this week to week, and so a lot of this is the fact that Morgan State got the big victory over State, and the Texas Southern split 1-1 this weekend.
True.
Which caused them to drop a spot. But when you wrap it up, we'll see what they do in the tournament, and that.
I just kind of
overall philosophy.
I look at their body of work accumulate, and maybe that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, so. No, I think I don't have a problem with that. Great points.
So. What up, world? It's your boy Rob Calloway, host of the HBCU Report, and right now you're inside the HBCU Sports Lab with my guy. All hail the dean of HBCU
he had to do that,
Sports.
right?
Of course.
You know I named him that. Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, my guy. What's happening, man?
Just making sure y'all know what's up. No problem. Just share.
Just love the humility, Doc. I mean, I love you, man, but man.
I'm sorry. On the inside of Dr. Deal, team dropping out this week is Texas Southern Tigers, 15-16, 13-6, lose 2 straight. Tennessee State Tigers, 18-15, 9-9, 4-3. They can't jump back in the poll as they close out 1-1 this week in terms of tournament play. Texas Southern does receive votes, 15-16, 13-6, 22 points, while Bethune-Cookman Wildcats start receiving votes at 16-14 as they close out the season strong on the men's side, 10-6, 15 points. Top 5 program, number 5, Southern Jaguars, 16-15, 13-5, 7 straight wins. In terms of the rankings there, did you need a copy there, Mike?
That would be negative. No.
Oh.
See how you do? Come in a few minutes late and don't get a copy.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So they were not ranked last week, but they get in the poll, 63 points. Number 4 is Norfolk State Spartan, 16-15, 12-4, 66 points. They were ranked 5. They jumped up a spot. Number 3 is North Carolina A&T State Aggies, 16-15, 12-4. They drop a spot after a loss to North Carolina Central with 79 points in the poll. Number 2, Prairie View A&M Panthers, 18-13, 14-4. Previous ranked 4, 95 points. They were ranked number 1. 2 straight losses drops them from the number 1 spot. New number 1 this week is North Carolina Central Eagles, 17-13, 13-3. 5 first place votes, 101 points. Again, they were ranked 3 to jump all the way to number 1. North Carolina Central Eagles earned number 1 ranking in poll in the week, number 10 as they get it done. Prairie View did win the regular season, but losing 2 straight gives the nod to North Carolina Central as they do it in style. They get a win over top 5 program to clinch the regular season championship for the MEAC. What are your thoughts on the top 5 with a new number 1 team?
Way to close the show, North Carolina Central. That's the way you close the show and win that regular season title. Southern Jaguars, they're the hottest team going right now. A little post-game celebration after the big win over Prairie View. You know, they dunked their coach and all that great stuff. So, you know, let's see if they carry that same energy into the SWAC tournament this upcoming week. But I tell you what.
Sound like you questioning us.
Well, you know, it's like, don't peter out too fast. I need you to take that energy into the tournament. So
You did win a championship.
you know, I give them credit. Good win, very good win. So they're a tough team. They're very sound on the defensive end of the ball. And I tell you what, you don't want to see them right now.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Way to close, way to finish to North Carolina Central. So you can't argue with that. You can't argue with number 2. You can't argue with 3 through 5. I think they're somewhat interchangeable. You could argue, to be honest, Southern moving up to number 4 as hot as they've been playing, but we'll see. So I'm good.
You got the number 1.
No, that was Charles cutting you off.
So where's the love here? Who's cutting me off? I'm trying to make my
told
point.
you one Jackson State, Mississippi, right here.
Is that a Jackson State cutoff? I mean, seriously.
What? Wow, that was cold.
I'm like,
Go ahead, final thoughts, Mike.
no, I done lost my train of thought. I'm mad now.
Dr. Camille's inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington.
I was making a valid point here.
Mike is telling Charles how he really feels.
Man, Mike Washington.
Making a valid point here.
Oh my goodness. I am Dr. Kiana Cavil, the Dean of the College HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did, as you can tell today. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday, as we'll be back on Tuesday next week, 6 to 7 p.m. right here on KCOH 1230 a.m. Houston, Texas. The Source. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I don't have my music. Oh, you got it. Oh, dream big.
Dream big.
And continue to move forward.
Cut
we
out.
will talk with you soon.
Course lecture dismissed.